Te reo ererangi o te mānia. This episode was produced in Otatahi by Plains Media, with support from New Zealand On Air.
You've heard the dragons roar. Now it's time to hear the ocean's answer. Welcome back to Avis's next adventure, the continuation of Avis and the Promise of Dragons. I'm Audrey Worsley, your guide into the deep. This is Avis and the Call of the Kraken by Heather McQuillan, published by Ahoy, an imprint of the Cuba Press in 2024. Ready? Hold your breath. The sea is waking. Princess glowed like a ruby. Seagulls and shags flew in to look at her, then wheeled away, not daring to land. Mr. Papaloo and Lulu stared in awe. Humbert growled a low belly growl. He opened his jaws, and the growl emerged in a hot roar. It was lucky he hadn't eaten any chili chocolate, or flames would have singed every nearby tree and set the tussocks alight. Now as the roar emerged, so did his body. If Mr. Papaloo had been terrified before, he found his terror doubled in an instant, for this was a wild dragon rearing up on the top of the sandy hill. The sun behind him glinted off his spiked tail and glimmered around his armoured scales. Humbert opened out his ribbed wings, and light shimmered through their parachute silk membrane. His gold wingtips shone like sharpened spears. His amber eyes rolled and his wide nostrils flared. As he opened his jaws and roared once more, showing sharp white teeth, Mr. Papaloo fell as he scrambled back, then got to his feet, slowly bowing his head to each dragon. Great Pilimor, almighty lizard, I apologize for Lulu. She was raised to be a very obedient girl, and her behaviour today has been disappointing. I'm truly sorry, Ms. Child. Lulu, come now, we must leave immediately. Lulu was reluctant to go. As Mr. Papaloo towed her away by the arm, she stared at Princess, at all her glorious colours, and at Humbert, who was lit up by the sun, scales aflame with copper and bronze and gold. She didn't say sorry. Instead she called back, I had to see them for real. Avis filled with indignation, like a spiky pufferfish, hands on her hips. Well, you'll never see them again, she yelled. Never. So don't bother asking. In the distance, the outboard motor of Noah's Ark started up. Good riddance, she said. Humbert shimmered to camouflage himself back into the greens and sandy browns of the island and turned to Princess, who didn't seem bothered by having to stay visible. You could have shared, he said. He listened to her reply and shrugged. You're right. Dragons don't share. But maybe we could learn. It's what friends do. Princess snorted. Sometimes, Princess, you are very mean, he said. Clearly hurt by her attitude, he let out a misty breath from his nostrils. Then he turned to Melinda. I can smell another bar in your bag. That's chili chocolate and it's not for you, said Melinda firmly. There's enough to worry about with that fire-breathing Teju Chokar. That's not fair. Humbert stamped his clawed feet, causing dust to rise again. Princess coughed out loud, more than she probably needs to. Avis had her hands back on her hips, anger still simmering in her tummy. Shut up, you two, she yelled. Melinda looked at her 3 charges, 2 huffy dragons and 1 puffy girl. Avis could see Melinda was trying to make the best of the situation. Thinking positive, Melinda said at last in a fake cheery voice. We have more time to explore the island. Princess bent her head to Melinda. Humbert nodded in agreement. It was annoying not being in on their conversation. Avis wanted to adjust the frequency of her dragon's tears so she could hear them, but Humbert had told her that it was up to Princess, and Princess wasn't being cooperative. Melinda interpreted for Avis. Princess thinks the island looks ideal for a dragon sanctuary. There's a small lake at the centre, and several streams that run down the beach. She's keen to go hunting and see what the food here is like. Us too, said Humbert, casting a sly look at Avis. She knew they were going to need to head to the beach to talk with the mother. She didn't need a dragon's tear to tell her that. I don't want anyone going near the water's edge, Melinda said using her serious voice. Not until we find out what's out there. Kraken or Taniwha, said Avis. Melinda nodded. Or Taniwha. Or underwater vent. All possibilities are still on the table. We mustn't let her imagination get away with us. She clapped her hands, as if that was the end of that. I'm going to check out the freshwater tank I spied behind the hut. We'll explore the crater lake, said Avis, hoping she wasn't giving any sign she was lying. Good idea, said Melinda, and she went to talk to Princess, who was gazing at the ocean. It wasn't a real lie, hummed Humbert to Avis, switching to mind talk. We can explore the lake after we meet Mother. It was a real lie, thought Avis, as a new sound whispered its way through her ears. It started with a high, almost inaudible warble, and sent shivers down the tops of her shoulders. A bird, she thought, or some kind of flute. When the sound swelled, the hairs on her arms rippled with goosebumps. The notes caught the breath in her throat, with a melody so beautiful and haunting that tears fizzled beneath her lower lids. On the hilltop, Princess had lifted her head with her eyes closed, and she sang into the wide, empty air across the water. Every note rang loud and clear in Avis's ears. I can hear her singing, said Avis. On this island there are no neighbours, so she can use frequency within your audible spectrum, said Humbert. That's a sciencey thing that Melinda taught me. Princess's scales shimmered as if a laser light show was playing in unison with the lifts and falls of the notes, and sudden, surprising changes in tempo. Across the vast expanse of ocean, ripples formed, whirls of movement, eddies of changing colour, as if creatures of the sea were rising to the surface to hear the song better. Princess finished with one long, silvery note that seemed to dissolve into the air itself. Beautiful, Avis said under her breath. I feel sort of safe and excited and curious all at once. Princess must like it here. At Melinda's, her songs have been all sad ones. They make Theo howl. Here she can sing her feelings as loud and as low as she wants. Can you sing too? Asked Avis, wondering if Humbert had been keeping more secrets from her. Not like Princess, but it's okay, we all have different talents. She can't surf. Princess went hunting. Avis didn't feel sorry for the rats or stoats. They were an introduced species and didn't belong here. Then she thought, dragons didn't belong here either, or the lizards that Melinda was going to bring to the island. She herself was also an intruder. What right did she have to be on this island? She was an introduced species too. As she clambered onto Humbert's back, his scales turned to grip the thermal leggings Avis wore under her shorts. The grip was not as tight as it was on her track pants, so she clamped her knees tight to his side and held onto his back ridge. Humbert lifted into the warm air above the island, and as he headed along the steep coastline, Avis saw Mr. Papaloo's boat had crept from the reef into open water and was picking up speed. She wondered what they'd be talking about on the boat trip back. She wondered what Lulu thought of her now, knowing about a dragon. At least she didn't ever have to worry about impressing Lulu anymore. I never want to speak to her again. How did you know right away that Lulu was untrustworthy? Avis asked Humbert as he flew towards the cove. I could tell she had a secret. Responsible people don't have secrets. But I have lots of secrets, and I'm responsible. I respectfully disagree. That's what real friends do. Humbert lifted on the cliff thermals. You're only responsible some of the time. Well, I'm not a bad person. Then Avis remembered punching Archie and how she really wanted to punch Drake, and even Lulu. You're not really bad, and I don't think Lulu is really bad either. You probably shouldn't have yelled at her. What would you have done if someone said they had dragons that could be made visible by feeding them chocolate? You would have tested that theory, wouldn't you? Avis thought about that. Would she have done something if she had been expressly told not to? Like flying off to meet a sea monster? Do you think Lulu will tell anyone? Or Mr. Papaloo? Or Mrs. Papaloo? Avis asked Humbert. Maybe. It's hard to know who you can trust. But your instincts told you not to trust Lulu, and my instincts told me she could be a friend. How could I get it so wrong? Well, when you and I first met, my first instinct was to bite you. Your first instinct was to help me. Maybe life would have been simpler if I hadn't. Avis hadn't meant for Humbert to hear that thought and sensed immediately that she had hurt his feelings. But it's true, she said. Humbert snorted as he tilted towards the cove. I'm still trying to figure out this telling the truth thing. Humans don't seem to be very honest. Avis thought about the people she knew. Before Mum had gone off with Aaron, she'd told lots of lies. Her dad often said he'd do things and then didn't, which was sort of lying. Bruno had been mean when he was miserable, instead of talking about it. Melinda definitely wasn't trustworthy because she was running an illegal lizard sanctuary, and Lulu gave chocolate to Princess when she had been told not to. Being trustworthy is one of the top tips for being a good friend, declared Humbert. Did you get that off the internet? Avis asked. From my ancestral memories. My ancestral memories also say never to trust humans. But if all humans are untrustworthy, then no one could be my friend. Except me, hummed Humbert. You can trust me. Can I really? Thought Avis. It was another uncomfortable thought, so Avis pointed to the overgrown, narrow cliff path above the cove. Melinda could use her machete on that, she said. Or, said Humbert, you could steal the chili chocolate from Melinda's bag and I could burn it back. Not really trustworthy at all, thought Avis. There's one more thing about my dream I should tell you, Humbert said. Humbert sank lower over the water and headed up the beach. It wasn't a sleep dream. I was experimenting with frequencies and the stuff that Melinda is teaching me. I was trying to reach you on the island, but I kept getting interference. You're getting clever at all that, said Avis, but she wondered why he hadn't been truthful with her in the first instance. I learned something new. Maybe I should have said earlier, but I thought you might chicken out. What did you learn? Avis was startled that Humbert could think she was a chicken at all, after all the brave things she'd done recently. This mother, yes, she's large. I know that. And ancient. I figured. And she's not alone. She has children. Okay. Who are also large. Humbert's belly skimmed the water as he folded his wings back to surf in the cove, salt sprayed against Avis's face. And also quite angry, he added. Angry? At what? Humans. The drillers? Not only the drillers, they don't like any humans. Humbert rode a wave expertly onto the beach and came to a rest on a small patch of sand, seaweed and shells. Gnarly ride. Hold on, said Avis. The Kraken thing. Told you, they don't like humans? Especially noisy ones. Mother tried to hush them, but I could sense their fury directed at you. At me? Avis climbed down. Humbert shook himself like a wet dog, showering her in salty water. At you and Melinda. The tears amplify your voices. When Mother was trying to talk to you, they could all hear what you were saying. And you were very loud. But that wasn't my fault, protested Avis. An especially high wave raced over her shoes. Thrum. Thrum. Never tell secret. Humbert spun around, and Avis scrambled onto some low rocks in the small cove, narrowly escaping the whip of his tail. She's near. Humbert kept his hum soft, as if he recognised that the creature was wilder than he was. Thrum. Avis. Avis. Thrum. We have to stop them. A mismatch of information. That noise. Come closer to the water. Humbert led the way. Perhaps we shouldn't. Do you trust me to keep you safe? Yes, said Avis, but she wasn't as certain as she sounded. Following Humbert, Avis stepped cautiously over small stones and driftwood to the water's edge, peering across the waters, trying to see the creature that was calling. The water rippled. Off the mouth of the cove, something red and round rose above the surface, like a large buoy. The tip of the iceberg, Avis thought. It sank again. "What are you?" called Avis. "What do you need me to stop?" "Mother left home. Get away from us." Thrum. Avis was confused. "Your mother left home? Are you Kraken or Taniwha?" All possibilities on the table. Avis rested her hand on Humbert's scaly leg. "It talks like Melinda, but it's not making any sense. I don't understand." "She's using words she learned from listening to you and Melinda talk, but human words are so limited." Avis peered harder, trying to make out the shifting shape beneath the surface. "It could be kelp," she thought. "I could be imagining all this." "She's real," hummed Humbert. "Can we trust her? She needs our help." Thrum. Never tell secret. Avis turned back to the water. "Tell us," she shouted. "Tell us how to help you." The water shuddered. Thrum. "I told you not to." A series of waves raced towards the beach, and foam engulfed her lower legs. Avis scrambled up onto Humbert's back and something squirmed through the shallows, something long and snake-like, crimson and studded with barnacles. Avis lifted her feet and clung to Humbert's neck, peering down as the tentacle came closer. "A giant octopus!" she gasped. The tomato-red tentacle lifted towards them. "At this stage we only have theories." "Humbert, take off!" Avis insisted, squeezing her knees tight, waiting for him to grasp her legs with his scales, and ready for him to take flight. The tentacle curled around Humbert's front feet, still submerged in the water. It lifted, curved in the air, and its large suckers touched the dragon's scales. "Go!" Avis was certain it was about to wind around his leg and drag him and her into the depths. Never tell secret. Humbert twisted his head towards Avis. "You're talking too much and you're not listening." Never tell secret. Avis understood. "I promise," she said. "I promise to never tell your secret." Then, realizing she'd made another promise to a mythical creature without considering consequences, she added, "Unless it's a secret that hurts someone." The tentacle pulled back, slithering through the shallows. The water heaved a sigh and went still. "Has she gone?" Avis asked Humbert. "Did I hurt her feelings?" "Look at your tear." Avis reluctantly turned from the water and retrieved the dragon tear from its satin pouch. The tear was surging red and purple shapes. The shapes came into focus. Tentacles, a tubular body, a flash of a rectangular pupil. Mother was ancient. Avis could not quite tell how ancient, but Mother projected a memory of quiet oceans, where she migrated daily from the depths of the surface to glimpse at the stars, safe from the fire of the sun. From within the dragon's tear came images of the deepest water imaginable, where sunlight never touched. At this depth, Mother's crimson and magenta hues faded towards black. Avis saw fish with their own flashlights, fish that were puffed and blobby and flabby and sawtoothed and faceless. There were fish so ugly that Avis wondered if they'd given up their beauty down in the darkness, until she was shown a blue iridescent star and a glowing saucer-shaped jellyfish, delicate lacy creatures that floated like dandelion fluff through the water, a sharp-nosed, sharp-tailed, bioluminescent shark. Avis saw the creatures that lived where deep volcanic vents bubbled gas into the water, creatures probably no human eyes had ever seen before. The dragon's tear was filled with images of massive waves of migrant creatures rushing up every evening from the darkness into twilight, up to the surface to feed under the cover of night, and the other creatures that dive deep to hunt for food during the day. Up and down, following the currents of the ocean, schools of fish, eels, sharks, floating jellies, clouds of krill, whales, dolphins, and turtles, the ocean's heartbeat, the rhythm of the waves and wind, the creak of the sea and ice, the bubble and click and slurp of life underwater made Avis's mouth fall open in wonder. The bloop of icebergs bumping into each other, the quack of a minke whale, the munch of kina on kelp. Then came the sound that made Avis clench her teeth. Seasick-inducing sounds. The pounding, clanging dissonance of an ocean liner's motor. The seismic waves of deep-sea drills. The drone of military sonar. And the bloom of airgun seismic surveys firing over and over and over. A great cacophony of information and vibration entered her body. The sounds disrupted the underwater patterns. Great shoals of fish were split into smaller groups, and the jellies shuddered and slipped, and whales swerved off their familiar trails. A mismatch of information heading into brain. "What can I do?" Avis asked. "We have to stop them." Noise. "The ship, the Navy, I can't stop them all." "Your drilling rig." "Not my drilling rig," thought Avis, "and I can't stop the drilling. Melinda says they have government permits." "Do something, or..." Avis looked into the dragon's tear again. The story was changing. Now the crystal squirmed with tubular bodies. Tentacles waved, both beautiful and creepy. Orange, rust, red. She had seen something like it once when she had visited Te Papa. "Are they colossal squid?" she asked. More magical name. Beautiful. Surprise. Humbert's eyes widened as he understood something Avis wasn't seeing. "Those are Mother's children." The noise of the drilling rig disrupted their pathways. They tried to scare it away, and now they have other plans. "What?" asked Avis. "The mind has its own place." The creature inside the dragon's tear swarmed beneath ships. Their eyes were dark slits. Humbert stood with his front legs curled under the surf. "Mother wants them to return to the trench and hide, as she's done for hundreds of years, but her children no longer listen to her." The tomato-red tentacle waved above the surface for a moment, then disappeared. The dragon's tear flashed, a single, sad eye with a rectangular pupil, then to black. The black held. Avis blinked. Still black. She clamped her hand over the stone. It was cold. "What can I do?" "What do they want?" asked Avis. "Quiet waters, plentiful food." Humbert tilted his head to one side as if listening to a sound travelling from far, far away. "And revenge." And that wraps up today's tale on Spin Me a Tale. But don't wander too far. Join me next Saturday at 9:30 a.m. on Plains Media, broadcasting on 96.9 FM for the next episode in our journey. If you want to relive the magic, all past episodes are waiting at plains.org.nz. Let your imagination stay wide awake.